2 of the 1991 World Championship, the Grand Prix scene moves from the desert sunshine of Phoenix, Arizona, to the humid heat and the teeming millions of Sao Paulo, Brazil, to the magnificent 2.7-mile rebuilt Interlagos circuit. Sao Paulo is where the hero of Brazil, Ayrton Senna, lives, but in 7 years of trying, he's yet to win his home Grand Prix. But here at Phoenix, Ayrton was in a class of his own to win his 27th Grand Prix from a record 53rd pole position on the grid. It was a chillingly dominant drive to victory in a brand new McLaren with its equally new Honda V12 engine that hadn't even turned a wheel until it got to America. And such was Ayrton's superiority that he led from start to finish, stopped for new tyres without losing his lead, and won by a comfortable 16 seconds. Phoenix is very much a street circuit. Right-angle bend after right-angle bend. Brake, turn, accelerate, brake again, accelerate, change up, change down, brake, accelerate. A non-stop blur of ceaseless activity where precision and millimetre accuracy are essential, and Senna was its master. It was a truly crushing defeat for the opposition, and already Ayrton looked set for his 3rd World Championship. As ever, the toughest part of the whole meeting for the drivers who had to pre-qualify was 8 o'clock to 9 on Friday morning. The Dallara Judds of Pirro and Leto and the Jordan Fords of Gasho and De Cesaris made it, which meant that the 2 Lamborghinis, Larini and Van der Poel, Pedro Chavez Coloni and Olivier Griard's Fondmetal didn't. All the way to Brazil for less than an hour on the track. Brazil was bad news for the footwork Porsche team too. The engine wasn't up to the job and nor was the chassis. So both Alboreto and Capi failed to qualify. Poor Julian Bailey, with problem after problem with his Lotus Judd and who'd failed to qualify at Phoenix, was going to be a spectator in Brazil too. And Stefan Johansson, trying to return to Grand Prix racing with AGS, was another notable non-qualifier. Blundell and Brundle were in though. Last on the grid, they were going to race their overweight Brabham Yamahas for the last time, with the new car due at Imola. Eric Comas starting his first Grand Prix, 23rd. One Lotus out, but the other in, Mika Hakkinen. And then the 2 Minardi Ferraris. New boy Gianni Morbidelli would start 21st with a lap just 4/10 of a second slower than his experienced teammate Pierluigi Martini. He was 1 place ahead of JJ Leto's Dallara Judd on the grid, whilst Thierry Boutsen was 18th in the Ligier with Aguri Suzuki's Lola Ford 17th. British car, Tyrrell. Japanese engine, Honda, and the second Japanese driver, Satoru Nakajima. Ivan Capelli, a disappointing 15th, whilst the Pirelli-shod Benetton Ford of Brazilian Roberto Moreno was in row 7 of the grid, with the Jordan Ford V8 of Andrea De Cesaris glad to be in after failing to pre-qualify at Phoenix. Then row 6, Emanuele Pirro's Dallara Judd and Eric Bernard's Lola, a superb 11th. Bertrand Gachot starts 10th, a superb effort in the very impressive new Jordan Ford, in which Bertrand nearly won a World Championship point in its first race at Phoenix. Stefano Modena, 9th on the grid in Brazil, in the second Tyrrell Honda V10, after writing off his number 1 car in Friday's qualifying session. 4th in the Phoenix race, he was aiming for the podium in Brazil. And so was Brazilian Maurizio Gugelmin, starting 8th in his Chris Murphy-designed Leighton House Ilmore V10 and aching for a good finish in front of his home crowd. There were 4 Brazilians racing at Interlagos, and 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet, 7th on the grid, was hoping a non-stop run in his Benetton Ford on Pirelli tyres would give him a 3rd home win. But it wouldn't if Ferrari's Alain Prost, 6 times a winner in Brazil, could beat him, although Alain was only a disappointed 6th on the grid. Behind is Maranello teammate Jean Alesi, the mercurial Sicilian looking for his first Ferrari finish after his V12 engine had blown when he was 2nd in America. And now the vital two front rows. Gerhard Berger fourth, still looking for that elusive first win in his second season with McLaren. Gerhard seemed to have lost his cheerful confidence since he joined McLaren, and the popular theory was that he'd been outpsyched by his dominant teammate Ayrton Senna.
It's quick. Yeah. It's quick. So 116, so 116.2.
Nigel Mansell, and what a terrific struggle there was for the top three places. And this time, it seemed as though the front row was going to be occupied by the two Williams Renaults of Nigel and Riccardo Patrese, as first one and then the other took pole position on a Saturday afternoon we'll remember for a long time. Fastest of the day, with 25 minutes of the 60-minute session left, and with Riccardo Patrese second fastest, Nigel knew he could go faster still, and he was right. The Williams was set up perfectly. Its Renault V10 engine was stridently pumping out some 700 horsepower, and Nigel was in his element, attacking. Was this going to be his 16th pole position? It certainly looked like it. But veteran Riccardo Patrese wasn't finished. On with the famous blue and white helmet. On with the preheated second set of soft compound Goodyear qualifiers. Out onto the track and go for it. And if Nigel's pole position lap was superb, Riccardo's was brilliant. This was his 210th Grand Prix, but he'd lost none of his motivation. No, indeed, 1 minute, 16.775. 7/100ths faster than Mansell, pole position. Or was it? Third fastest, half a second adrift at his home circuit, with 53 pole positions behind him, life in his tyres, and a burning resolve to move up 2 places, was the danger man, Ayrton Senna. Only a few minutes to go, but time for his McLaren mechanics to fine-tune the suspension before Ayrton deliberately rolled out of the garage into the pit lane for the lap that mattered most. With just 3 minutes to go before the session ended, the 2.7-mile lap to build up speed, to put the final heat into his Goodyear qualifiers, and to hope that all was clear ahead, because if anyone balked him, Ayrton would be starting third. With sparks striking from the titanium skid plates of his McLaren, Ayrton was on his way into the lap, down the fast straight, towards 200 miles an hour, into curve 1. Then to the right-hander, the curve do sol, dropping down up to curve 2, the left-hander. Now up into top gear, flat out, nearly 200 miles an hour as he goes to curve 3, the left-hander. And this is it. Now a little short straight, then it is left again. Now starting to climb slightly up to the Ferdura, and that is a 4th gear corner, and this is it. Just look at the immaculate line he's taking. Coming up to the infield now, the right-hander, then the Piranino left-hander, dropping down to the very tight right, which was where he and Nakajima collided last year and lost Ayrton Senna victory in 1990. Now up to the left-hander. Tiny little short straight, it's downhill slightly, then curve 4. It's a 3rd gear corner. Now into the long, long left-hander at Subida. And now it's almost within sight of the final straight, which will complete what looks like being a sensational lap. 1 minute 16.392, and that is Ayrton Senna's 54th pole position. And he's now on the rundown lap. And he knows he's got the pole. He's got the readout from the front of the car, and the crowd know too. So Senna, pole position. Then the 2 Williams of Patrese and Mansell, the 2nd McLaren, the 2 Ferraris, 5th and 6th. Nelson Piquet, the first Pirelli runner. Then the other Brazilian, Mauricio Gugelmin. And so the grid rolls on. 26 starters in this 71-lap race. Mika Hakkinen has made it. but Caffey, Johansson, Alboreto and Bailey have not. Is Brazil hot, humid and dry? Not on Sunday morning it wasn't. It was first wet, then dry, a morning of showers, and the forecast for the afternoon's race predicted dry conditions, but maybe wet. So everyone was in an agony of indecision about tyres, not knowing whether they'd have to fit the heavy-treaded wets or the smooth slicks. So, in the final half-hour practice, they tried both, together with the adjustments to the car setups that each tyre type demanded. In conditions like these, where anything can happen in the race, you just have to be ready to jump in any direction. And when the half-hour ended, the half-hour that more than any other during the 5 practice sessions enables a true comparison of the 26 cars in race trim to be made, Nigel Mansell was fastest, Prost was second, Patrese third and Senna fourth, with 0.8 of a second covering the 4 of them. This was going to be good. Not that the crowd needed telling. As the 1 o'clock start approached, with Senna impassively sitting in his McLaren, they were working themselves into a rich Brazilian lather. Ricardo Patrese was ready to line up second on the grid, and Nigel Mansell was there for third. And after Phoenix, a finish in the points should be good. Gerhard Berger, fourth on the grid as Alain Prost, sixth, got ready for the 71-lap race that was going to see his teammate Jean Alesi start ahead of him. But Alain has started sixth last year and he'd won. Or could Nelson Piquet, first in Japan and Australia last year, make Brazil 91 his third win from 4 races? His Brazilian countryman Mauricio Gugelmin was in pain, badly burned by an exploding fire extinguisher. And would Satoru Nakajima keep clear of Senna this year? Would the excellent Bertrand Gachot get his Jordan to the finish in the points? These were just some of the questions, and soon we'd have the answers, because it was race time as the grid was cleared and the parade lap began. Began and finished with the 26 starters forming on the grid. Senna to the right, Patrese to the left, Mansell and Berger behind them. Alesi fifth and Prost sixth. The man with the green flag signals the grid is ready. The engine revs rise to a harsh crescendo. The red light comes on. Seconds later, the green. Brazil 91 has started, and Ayrton Senna leads. Yes, the Brazilian is where he means to stay, up front. And Nigel Mansell has sprinted past Ricardo Patrese second. So there is Patrese third, behind him Alesi. Then Gerhard Berger is in fifth position, and the rest stream round. And already, Gabriele Tarquini is out of the race. And there's a replay. What a dreadful race for AGS. Tarquini goes off on the very first lap and Stefan Johansson didn't even start. So now let's look. Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, the McLaren leads. The Williams in second place. Then it's the Williams and Ricardo Patrese third. Alesi fourth, Berger fifth, Piquet. And down in seventh place behind Nelson Piquet, the Scarlet Ferrari of Alain Prost. Look at the crowd. You can see who's in the lead. It's Senna. 1 lap completed, and Ayrton Senna now and Nigel Mansell are starting to break away from the rest of the field. is already, in these early stages, looking like a two-man race. And those two men, Ayrton Senna, here he is coming through to complete another lap. And you can tell from the crowd how delighted they are. And the other man, of course, Nigel Mansell. It's tremendously heartening that the Williams is going so well. At this early stage in the race, it is certainly looking as though the Williams, with its V10 Renault engine, is a match for the V12 Honda-powered McLaren of Ayrton Senna there. Watch the style of Riccardo Patrese in the second of the two Williams cars, chasing his teammate Nigel Mansell, but dropping back. Patrese, Alesi fourth. Berger still in fifth position. So McLaren leads, Williams second, Williams in third position, and there is Patrese. This is his 210th Grand Prix, this evergreen Italian, and there is Stefano Modena. And that is Bertrand Gachot in an excellent 10th position in the Jordan Ford, ahead of Maurizio Gugelmin. Now, Gugelmin really has got a problem, because the Brazilian had his cockpit fire extinguisher explode during the half-hour morning warm-up. He got chemical burns on his back and his leg, and he must be in severe pain. Riccardo Patrese and Nigel Mansell, like the two Ferraris with their V12 engines, have got semi-automatic gearboxes. That was the Achilles heel in the Williams at Phoenix. And Ayrton Senna there has got a 6-speed transverse manual gearbox in the McLaren. They've got a semi-automatic gearbox in development, but they're very cautious, and they're not going to introduce it until they know it works perfectly all the time. So, at the moment, fairly static, and Maurizio Gugelmin in the pits. Well, very early indeed, and as I expected, he's had to give it best on lap 10. Maurizio Gugelmin retires from the Brazilian Grand Prix, his home race, after a very brave effort. And that is absolutely rotten luck. Williams must, at this stage of the race, be a happy man. Ferrari not happy, though. That's the top one. John Lacey, the Sicilian, in fourth place, and he's not making any impression on Patrese at all. That's Gerhard Berger, who is in 5th position. And now a battle developing for 6th. Nelson Piquet in the V8 Ford Card Benetton, and he's being caught by 3 times world champion Alain Prost. And Senna is going through already. Senna is lapping Martin Brundle. And somebody off. Somebody off. It's a Tyrrell. Can't see who it is at the moment. Can't see the number. Need to see the helmet. It's Nakajima, Satoru Nakajima. The man who took Ayrton Senna out of the Brazilian Grand Prix last year is out this year himself. And now they're starting to carve their way through the field. They being Ayrton Senna and red 5, Nigel Mansell. Mansell is getting closer, no doubt about it. Nigel Mansell is starting to close on Ayrton Senna as Senna himself comes up to lap somebody. And if whoever it is gets in the way of the McLaren, this could enable Nigel Mansell to close right up. It's Pirro in the Dallara Judd, and he moves over like a gentleman. And Pirro, incidentally, was pushed off at the start, had to come into the pits and take on a new nose section. He's back in the race. He's just been lapped not only by Senna but by Mansell as well, and you can see now the 2 of them in the same shot. Senna and Mansell, 1st and 2nd, a big gap between them and Riccardo Patrese in 3rd position. But that is Mark Blundell, and here is Riccardo Patrese. That is Ivan Capelli. Obviously touring out of the race. Smoke pouring from his Ilmor engine as into the pits comes Alain Prost. Very early. This is lap 17. Let's see what his time is. 7.5 seconds, and that is a good stop. Here's the race order. Senna only 7/10 of a second between Mansell and Senna. There are the rest of them, and already a good number of them have been lapped, and Pirro has been lapped twice. Oh, look at Nigel Mansell. Look at the Williams Renault. He's right up with Ayrton Senna. Second, Patrese 3rd, Alesi 4th. Berger is in 5th place. Senna and Mansell. Nothing in it between Senna in the McLaren Honda and Mansell in the Williams Renault. And the crowd rise. What's happening? Where's Mansell? Mansell's gone into the pits. Mansell stopping for tyres. Here he is. Now remember cross time and compare it with Nigel Mansell's. The mechanics working away furiously with the pneumatic wrenches. And Mansell's got a problem. He can't. Oh, this is dreadful. 14.2 seconds. That's twice as long as it should have taken. And the mechanics are really heartbroken. It wasn't their fault. Obviously, Mansell was having a problem with the semi-automatic gearbox. He seemed to me, from the picture, not to be able to select first gear. And that, of course, means that Ayrton Senna has now extended his lead, with Riccardo Patrese up into second place, Alesi to third, Mansell rejoined in fourth place. Someone into the pits for McLaren, and it's Senna. Now, this is a brilliant tactical move. I'll explain why in a moment. Watch this. Oh, what a super stop by the McLaren mechanics. 6.6 seconds. Faster than Mansell. And there is Patrese in second place. So, Ayrton Senna has stopped for tyres just as he did in Phoenix and rejoined the race still in first place, just ahead of Riccardo Patrese as he laps Mika Hakkinen in the Lotus Judd. And there is Patrese. Eric Bernard goes through in the Lola Ford and takes the Ligier Lamborghini of Eric Comas. Now Senna is up to the Ligiers again because of course they passed him when he came into the pits for tyres, but I think disposing of first of all Comas and then Thierry Boutsen isn't going to be a problem to Ayrton Senna. And Nigel Mansell is up there. Mansell is really flying. He's got the bit between his teeth. He's trying to make up for that lost time. So lap 28, there's Patrese coming into the pits for tyres, and the McLaren mechanics are obviously waiting for Berger. Senna has been in already, so it's got to be the Austrian. There is Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. He's stopping for tyres, and here is Berger. Now, let's see how his time compares with that of Ayrton Senna. Just under 7 seconds for Senna, and it's exactly 7 seconds for Gerhard Berger. And it's Nigel Mansell who is up into second place. Because with Patrese and Alesi having stopped, Nigel Mansell has gone through. And Nelson Piquet there is third. This is lap 29 in the 71 lap Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos. And in the lead, it's Senna. 7.2 seconds ahead of Mansell. There is Nelson Piquet in third position. Riccardo Patrese rejoined. There he is in fourth place. Alain Prost has moved up into 5th position. Jean Alesi, after his tyre stop, down to 6th. Gerhard Berger is 7th after his stop, and Ayrton Senna is lapping Bertrand Gachot. Häkkinen into the pits. The youngest man in the race, 22-year-old Mika Häkkinen from Finland in his Lotus Judd. So here is Jean Alesi. You can always tell the Sicilian by the way he cocks his head over in the corners. And Senna knows, he must know from the radio, that although he had so much better a tyre stop than Nigel Mansell, the Englishman, as he did earlier in the race, is starting to catch him. Nigel Mansell was faster than Senna in the opening stages of the race until his pit stop, but of course he was in 2nd place. And now it's exactly the same, because Mansell is starting to catch the McLaren Honda V12. And that is Patrese, back into 3rd position. Jean Alesi, new tyres. Alain Prost, 5th position. And that is Roberto Moreno in the 2nd Benetton Ford. Now watch Ayrton Senna, and here's some news. Nigel Mansell has just made the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 20.436. That is a speed of 120.279. He's coming up to one of the Ligiers. And once again, Häkkinen has been passed by Ayrton Senna. He's between the Brazilian and Nigel Mansell. There is the Englishman. And look at how Nigel Mansell has cut great chunks out of Ayrton Senna's lead. In fact, when Mansell passes Häkkinen, he's going to be right up with Senna. So, 40 laps out of 71. Mansell 3.26 seconds behind Senna. Patrese 3rd, then Piquet, Berger, Alesi, Prost still in 7th position. And there are the 11th to the 22nd. But, of course, Blundell is out, so are Bernard, Leto, De Cesaris, Modena and Capelli. And Suzuki didn't even start. He had a fuel pump failure on the line, and that was bitter luck for him. Moreno, 8th position. Senna the leader. Now look for Mansell. There's the McLaren. as the Ferrari comes over the skyline. And Ayrton Senna goes through and laps the 8th position man. Senna leading Mansell. Patrese is 3rd, Berger is 4th, Piquet is 5th, Prost is 6th. And now at last, Nelson Piquet stops for tyres. I say at last because it was obvious with the way he was dropping back that his tyres were going off. 6.9 seconds, excellent. Senna. Now watch this for pure style. And I'm looking down the track now to see what the gap between Mansell and Senna is. It's increasing, it's over 5 seconds now, with Nelson Piquet going extremely well. Now, let's have a look at Mansell and see how he's going. He's definitely going slower than the McLaren. Something is amiss. Here is race leader Ayrton Senna, and we're well into the Brazilian Grand Prix now. 71 laps is 190.8 miles. The lap record was held by Gerhard Berger, 1 minute 19.9. And unofficially, of course, that was absolute. And that's Martini. Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi Ferrari. He's spun. Is he going to be able to get going? No, he is not, because he is straddling the curve. His rear wheels are off the ground and he can't get any purchase. That's rotten luck. And into the pits comes Nigel Mansell for a second time. Now, that's the problem, obviously. Nigel must have decided his second set of tyres had gone off. Oh, it's happened again. 9.2 seconds. And that's a Ligier on fire. It's Comas. Eric Comas on fire. Oh, is he going to be able to get out before the whole car goes up? And that's one of the Benettons nearly losing it. It was Roberto Moreno. And Comas very sensibly stops by a fire marshal post. They've immediately got the extinguishers ready. Comas is out of the car. This is his first Grand Prix. He failed to qualify at Phoenix, and he's out of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Patrese, third position. He's changed tyres just once. Unlike Nigel Mansell, who's had 2 sets, there is Gerhard Berger. Well, he hasn't won for McLaren yet. This is his 2nd season. Alain Prost, 5th place, a desperately disappointing race for Prost. He was 2nd fastest in the half-hour warm-up this morning, and he was obviously hoping for better things than this, and that is Jean Alesi, 7th position. And Alesi is very shortly, if he's not careful, going to be caught and lapped by Senna. There he is. Mansell has got the hammer down with a vengeance for the 3rd time. He caught Senna on his first set of tyres, came in and changed. Nearly caught Senna again on his 2nd set of tyres. Went out well behind the Brazilian. That's Patrese in 3rd place. And Mansell is starting to close the gap. He's about 20 seconds behind Senna now, but I don't think there's nearly enough of the race left as you watch Gerhard Berger in 4th place for Mansell to catch, never mind pass, Ayrton Senna. There's Prost. Well, I think there's going to be harsh words spoken at Maranello at the Ferrari headquarters after this race. Now watch this. There is something very significant about this picture, because it is Ayrton Senna and Mika Hakkinen. Now, Mika Hakkinen is only in his 2nd Grand Prix. There's Nigel Mansell, who's really starting to catch Senna. And Hakkinen in the Lotus... Mansell! Mansell spins! Oh, hear the crowd roar! They're delighted. And Mansell spin turns the Williams. What happened? He just lost it there. Getting back... Is he getting back to racing speed? No, he's not. Mansell out. For the 2nd time in 2 races since he joined Williams, Nigel Mansell retires. And there's Patrese, Riccardo Patrese going up into 2nd place. Well, words fail me. Here's a replay. And that looks to me like a gearbox lock-up for Nigel Mansell in Brazil, just as he had one at Phoenix when he was in 3rd place. 2nd in Brazil, and that's lost Nigel Mansell another hatful of points which he could desperately have done with, bearing in mind that every point in the 16 World Championship races counts. Mansell retires, Senna leads now, he's out on his own, long way, he's 40 seconds ahead of Riccardo Patrese. Gerhard Berger up into 3rd place, Alain Prost up into 4th, Nelson Piquet to 5th, Jean Alesi to 6th, and the lapped Roberto Moreno 7th. Mansell out of the car, he's perfectly okay, looking for a gap in the traffic, and my goodness, Mansell runs as fast as he drives. Into the safety behind the wall, and it's a shame to laugh because Mansell, with congratulations from his mechanic there, had driven a super race. Sportsman that he is, he waves to the crowd. Well done, Nigel. Super race, you might have won it. What a great sportsman Nigel Mansell is. Wow, now this is incredible. Senna is either slowing up tactically or Riccardo Patrese has got a new lease of life, or Senna's got a problem, because the gap between Riccardo Patrese 2nd and Ayrton Senna in the lead is coming down. Seconds every lap. Riccardo Patrese in his 210th Grand Prix coming up to lap who I remind you is in 7th position. Don't tell me that in the closing stages of the 1991 Brazilian Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna is going to have victory snatched from him. Look, he's going much slower. You can see he's going slower. There's Patrese. He will see Senna soon. And it was an enormous gap. And Patrese, you can see, has passed Roberto Moreno. There is Gerhard Berger, 3rd. Well, all of a sudden, the race, which had become slightly static, has burst into flame. Because Patrese, number 6 in the Williams-Renault, is catching Ayrton Senna. And Gerhard Berger is catching Riccardo Patrese. Alain Prost is still 4th. Piquet is in 5th position. 6th is Jean Alesi. Now, let's watch the McLaren. There's Patrese. And that is Martin Brundle, who's still running. He's about 3 or 4 laps down, but it looks as though he's going to finish in Brazil. But good luck to Martin. The excitement is right here with Patrese. Now, here's the leader. Now, let's watch again. Now, I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think Ayrton Senna must have a gearbox problem. I'll tell you why. Listen to the engine. He would have been in a lower gear there if he could have got a lower gear. I'm guessing that he's stuck in a high gear, and Senna, with the race running down now, and with Patrese catching him and Berger there catching the Italian in the Williams-Renault, Ayrton Senna has got a major problem. And the crowd has gone quiet all of a sudden. They can see that their hero may not win. You didn't see them stand up and wave there. Senna going through to complete another lap. And Patrese. And Berger through. Now Berger has lapped Moreno and, of course, Martin Brundle in the Brabham Yamaha. And there is Gerhard Berger in 3rd position. He is still definitely continuing to catch Riccardo Patrese. We're going to have one of the most exciting and one of the closest finishes at a Grand Prix for a long time if things go on like they are now. 3 laps to go. So this lap and the next one between Senna going into the left-hander at the end of the fast straight there and Riccardo Patrese in 2nd place. Just this lap and the next one between Ayrton Senna and his first ever victory in Brazil. Lap 71. Is he going to do it? There's Patrese. And where is Berger? There he is, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be really close. This is it, out of the left-hander. Soon, Ayrton Senna will see the most welcome sight of all to a racing driver, never mind one in his position, the checkered flag. as he crawls up the incline. The crowd rises. It's pouring with rain. Out goes the checkered flag, and Ayrton Senna wins his 28th Grand Prix with the most superb victory for him that he's ever had. Victory in Brazil for the first time. Well, an absolutely superb victory, and oh, Ayrton Senna in the car. So maybe the problem that he had wasn't to do with the car, but to do with him. His helmet is off. He would normally have driven the car back to the paddock area, of course, and been out of the car. He would have been beside himself with enjoyment and pride at winning in Brazil, but instead he's stuck in the car. For some reason he can't get out of it. And I don't know, I haven't the remotest idea what's wrong with him. He's obviously in pain or just exhausted. There would have been enormous mental pressure on him, of course, knowing that he was going to win in Brazil if he just got home, which he did. And Brazil is about crowds, and that's what they're looking at. Ayrton Senna, the winner, on the left. His friend Riccardo Patrese congratulates him, and on the right, his teammate Gerhard Berger makes it first and third for McLaren in Brazil. Victory for Ayrton Senna and another 10 points to add to the 10 he won in Phoenix. Patrese second, Berger third, then Alain Prost, sad only to be fourth, with Nelson Piquet fifth and John Alesi sixth. So Senna leads Prost in the World Championship now by 11 points after 2 rounds, with Patrese and Piquet tying for third ahead of Berger and Stefano Modena, who failed to score in Brazil and got those 3 points in Phoenix. McLaren leading Ferrari after 2 races by 14 points in the Constructors' Championship. A tie for third between Benetton and Williams, ahead of Tyrrell and Lola. And in the background, Ayrton Senna has found the strength to spray the champagne. Senna's obviously a very happy man, but equally obviously a very tired man. And I think the champagne shower is to cool him down as much as anything else. Well, in exactly 1 month's time, the Grand Prix scene moves to Europe for the first European round of the World Championship of 1991, to the Imola circuit in Italy for the San Marino Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna then with a commanding lead in the World Championship, 2 wins from the first 2 races. Will he make it 3 in Italy?